The space station was alive with noise. Engines hummed, alien voices called out, and lights flashed from 100 different stalls. The great market of Orlon Station was always full, always crowded, and always dangerous if you were not careful. Beings from across the galaxy gathered here to trade rare goods, sell strange foods, and look for trouble. And trouble had a name. Grakther. Grakther was 12 feet tall, with thick gray skin like stone and arms as wide as steel beams. He was a known bully, the kind of alien that others crossed the street to avoid. His steps shook the ground. His yellow eyes burned with hunger for power and fear. Wherever he walked, silence followed. Traders quickly hid their best goods. Smaller aliens lowered their heads, pretending not to exist. Everyone knew what happened to those who stood in his way. He never paid. He only took. On this day, Grakther was in a foul mood. He stormed through the market, shoving aside anyone unlucky enough to stand too close. He grabbed food from stalls, tossing it into his giant mouth without asking. He tipped over crates just to hear the crash. When one small alien dared to protest, Grakther roared and lifted the poor creature by the throat until it begged for mercy. Then he threw it aside like trash. The crowd trembled, but no one stopped him. No one dared. And then, something different. At the far edge of the market, a small figure walked slowly into the chaos. It was a human. Humans were not rare in the galaxy, but they were not common either. Most saw them as weak, too small to stand against larger races. They were quick learners, yes, and clever in trade, but never fighters. That was the belief. This human carried a bag, nothing more. A plain brown bag held carefully in both hands. The smell drifted through the air, strong and warm, unlike anything in the alien market. It was food. Homemade food. It was Grandma's lunch. The human's name was Eli. He was not tall. He was not strong. He had no armor, no weapon, no guards. He wore a simple jacket and boots that had seen better days. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp, watching everything around him. The smell from his bag caught Grakther's attention. The bully stopped in mid-step, turning his massive head. His nose twitched. His lips curled back, showing long, sharp teeth. "What is that?" the giant growled. The crowd froze. Everyone followed his gaze to the human. Murmurs began. A human? Here. Why would he come now? He must not know who walks the market today. Eli kept walking, steady, calm. He did not run. He did not hide. Grakther's booming laugh rolled through the marketplace. "Look at this tiny thing. A little soft-skinned creature, holding a lunch like a child. Has he come to feed me?" Aliens nearby chuckled nervously. No one dared laugh too loud at the bully, but some could not help themselves. Eli stopped walking. He looked up at the giant without flinching. His hands tightened on the bag. Grakther's heavy steps made the ground shake as he moved closer. His shadow swallowed the human. He towered over him like a mountain of muscle and stone. He leaned down, his hot breath washing over Eli. "That bag," the alien growled. "It belongs to me now." Eli's voice was quiet but steady. "No, it doesn't." The crowd gasped. The words were small, but they carried like thunder. No one ever told Grakther no. Not once. Not ever. The giant blinked, confused for a moment. Then he threw back his head and roared with laughter. His fist slammed into the nearest stall, breaking wood and metal as if it were nothing. The merchant inside ran screaming. "You dare speak to me like that?" Grakther's yellow eyes narrowed. "You are barely taller than my leg. I could crush you with one hand." Eli did not move. He stood his ground, still holding the bag. The crowd whispered, voices sharp with fear and wonder. "Is the human mad? He will be killed. Why does he not run?" Grakther bent low, his face inches from Eli's. "Give me the food, little man," he hissed, "or I will break every bone in your body." But Eli's eyes did not waver. They held something no one expected. Not fear, not weakness. Something else. "Some things," Eli said softly, "are not for bullies." For the first time in years, Grakther hesitated. He was used to screams, tears, and begging. He was used to easy victims. But this small creature, this human, did not shake, did not cower. did not break. The air grew heavy with silence. Every alien in the marketplace leaned forward, waiting for the giant's response. The smell of Grandma's lunch drifted higher, strong and sharp, tickling Gracthar's nose. His mouth watered. His rage built. And then he reached out his massive hand, ready to take by force what the human would not give. The crowd gasped as time seemed to slow. Would the human stand? Would he fall? The market had seen many fights before, but never like this. Never human against giant. And in that single moment, everyone knew this was only the beginning. The market trembled with silence. Every voice was gone. Every step froze. All eyes locked on the strange picture. A 12-foot monster towering over a small human, holding nothing more than a brown bag of food. The air was heavy, thick with waiting. Gracthar's hand reached forward, shadow falling over Eli's head. His fingers were long, thick like tree trunks, tipped with claws sharp enough to slice metal. One squeeze would be the end of the human. But Eli did not move. Not a step. Not a flinch. Not even a blink. The crowd was shocked. This was wrong. This was different. No one ever stood in front of Gracthar without shaking. No one ever dare hold ground. And yet here stood a small human, calm, steady, holding a bag as if it were a shield. Gracthar snarled, his voice deep like thunder rolling over stone. "Do you think you can stop me, little thing? Do you think your soft skin and tiny bones can stand against me?" Eli's answer was quiet but clear. "No." The crowd gasped again. It sounded like wind rushing through the market. Gracthar blinked, confused. Then his grin widened. "No. Then why do you resist?" Eli's eyes narrowed, sharp and focused. "Because this isn't yours." The words were simple. Too simple. Yet they hit harder than any weapon. For a moment, the great bully did not know what to say. His mind, used to screams and begging, struggled to understand defiance in such a small package. Then the laughter came. Deep, shaking, cruel laughter. Gracthar threw back his head and roared until his voice echoed through the iron beams of the ceiling. His fists pounded the ground, cracking stone. His voice filled every ear with fear. "You dare," he boomed. "You dare deny Gracthar, crusher of clans, eater of warriors, breaker of bones?" The crowd trembled. Many covered their ears. A merchant ducked under his stall, whispering prayers to strange gods. Another grabbed his children, pulling them close. But their eyes never left the human. Still, Eli did not move. The bag of food hung steady in his hands. The smell drifted again, warm and strange, filled with spices no alien tongue had tasted. It cut through the heavy air like fire, burning in Gracthar's nose, pulling him closer. He licked his teeth. "I will take it," he growled. "And then I will take you." His giant hand lunged down. The crowd shouted. Some turned away, not wanting to see the end. Others leaned forward, unable to look away. But Eli did something no one expected. He stepped back, not in fear, but in control, just enough for the claws to miss him by inches. The giant's hand slammed into the ground, cracking the stone floor. Dust rose, covering both of them in a gray cloud. Eli's eyes never left the alien. His body was still calm, calm in the face of death. Gracthar roared, shaking off the dust. His claws ripped through another stall, sending fruit and metal parts flying. His anger grew like a storm. "Stand still, insect." But Eli moved lightly, one step at a time, always out of reach. Not running, not panicked, simply controlled. This only made Gracthar more furious. He swung his arms wide, smashing tables, breaking lamps, tearing banners from the ceiling. Sparks flew as wires snapped. The once bright market now flickered in broken light. The crowd scattered back, but still watched. 1,000 eyes followed the dance, giant against human. And still, the bag of food never left Eli's grip. Not once. Gracther noticed. His voice twisted with cruel joy. So that is it, tiny one. That is what you protect. That food. That smell. I will taste it. I will take it from your broken hands. Eli stopped walking. He stood firm once more. His voice cut through the chaos. You will not touch it. The words were not loud, but the crowd heard them clear as crystal. A chill ran through them. They felt something impossible, belief. Belief in a human standing against a monster. Gracther growled, bending low, his face close enough to see every scar on his stone-like skin. His breath stank of rotten meat. His teeth dripped with saliva. Why not? He hissed. Eli's grip tightened on the bag. His reply was simple. Because it's mine. The crowd gasped again, louder now. They were not used to defiance. But this felt different. Gracther's laugh twisted into rage. With both hands, he struck down, trying to crush Eli like an insect under a boot. The ground shook. Dust exploded upward. The market cried out. He is gone. The human is crushed. But when the smoke cleared, Eli was not broken. He had slipped to the side again, faster than any expected. The giant's fist smashed into stone, leaving holes deep and jagged, but the human stood safe. Gracther's eyes burned with fury. He could not believe it. This small creature avoided him again and again, like water slipping through his claws. The whispers in the crowd grew stronger. He is not afraid. He moves like a fighter. Could a human truly face him? Eli's calm gaze never shifted. His voice was soft but steady. You think power is only size. But you are wrong. The giant's roar shook the air. You are nothing. He swung again, and again, smashing everything in his path. But Eli dodged each strike, moving just enough, never wasting motion. His eyes were sharp, watching, waiting. The fight was no longer only about food. It was about pride. It was about fear. And for the first time in his long reign of terror, Gracther felt something new inside his chest. Something cold. Something sharp. Doubt. The crowd saw it too. Their fear began to shift. It turned into something brighter, something dangerous to the bully. Hope. Eli stood in the broken light of the market, dust swirling around him, bag still in hand. His voice was calm as ever. You may be 12 feet tall, but you are already smaller than you think. Gracther froze. The words pierced deeper than any blade. For a moment, silence returned. The crowd held its breath, waiting for the storm. And then the storm came. With a roar of rage and humiliation, Gracther swung his giant fist once more, faster, harder, stronger, aiming straight for Eli's chest. The ground cracked, the air shook, the market bent under his power. This was no longer a bully's game. This was war. The human's eyes locked on the giant's, sharp and unbroken. He shifted his feet, his body ready. His grip on the bag never faltered. The clash had only begun. The air inside the market felt heavy, as if the walls themselves leaned forward to watch. Dust floated in broken light, drifting down like ash after a fire. Stalls were shattered, wires sparked from broken lamps, and the ground shook with cracks where the giant's fists had struck. In the center stood Gracther, 12 feet of muscle and rage, his chest heaving. Around him, silence spread, broken only by the hum of dying lights. And in front of him, still standing, still unbroken, was Eli. The human held his bag as if nothing else in the galaxy mattered. His calm eyes met the giant's burning yellow ones, refusing to look away. Gracther's voice rumbled, low and cruel. You move quick, little one, like a rat running between the cracks. But rats are crushed all the same. He straightened to his full height, towering like a mountain of gray stone. His hands spread wide, claws dripping dust. The crowd shrank back, expecting another storm. But instead of striking, Graktha laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was the laugh of someone certain of victory. His deep roar rolled across the market until stalls shook and lanterns swayed. "You think you can shame me?" he bellowed. "You think dodging makes you strong? Then hear my challenge." The crowd gasped. A challenge was no small thing. In the laws of the station, when a warrior issued a challenge, it could not be ignored. To refuse was to admit weakness. To lose was to invite death. Whispers filled the air. "He challenges the human. The human will die. This is madness." Graktha slammed one fist into the ground, carving another hole into the cracked floor. His eyes glowed with fury. "Face me. Fight me. Prove that you are more than an insect with words." The crowd turned their eyes to Eli. He stood quiet, still as a statue, the bag never leaving his hands. Would he refuse? Would he run? But Eli's voice came, calm as before. "If I fight you, I do it my way." The words echoed, strange and sharp. The crowd stirred, confused. Even Graktha tilted his massive head, uncertain. "Your way," he growled. "There is only one way. Strength against strength. Power against power." Eli shook his head. His grip on the bag tightened. "You are wrong. There's more than one kind of power." The giant snarled. He wanted to smash the words out of the human's mouth. Yet something about that steady gaze made him pause. No fear. No tremble. Only calm defiance. Graktha's pride burned hotter. He could not back down. Not in front of this crowd. Not in front of whispers spreading like fire. He had to crush this human completely. Show all that no small creature could resist him. "Then show me," he roared. "Show me your power, little human. I will break it, and when I am done, your bag will be mine." The crowd flinched at his words. The smell of Grandma's lunch still drifted, filling the air with a strange warmth, tickling alien noses. None had ever smelled such food before. It was almost dangerous. Eli's eyes narrowed. His reply was calm. "You will regret touching it." The crowd gasped again. The courage in the human's voice felt unreal. Was this bravery or madness? Graktha slammed his chest with one massive fist, roaring loud enough to shake the beams above. "Then let the challenge begin." The crowd erupted into motion. Aliens scrambled to clear the broken stalls, forming a wide circle around the fighters. Old market rules rose again. When a challenge was made, the ground was cleared. None would interfere. The ring grew large, dust rising as feet shuffled back. Every face, no matter the species, no matter the fear, turned toward the center. On one side stood Graktha, 12 feet of fury, his body like a wall of stone. On the other side stood Eli, human and small, his brown bag still in hand. The picture was almost laughable, yet none laughed now. The tension was too sharp, too real. The market master, an old-scaled alien with silver skin, raised one trembling hand. His voice was thin but carried far. "The challenge is called. By Graktha's word and the human's reply, this is witnessed. No mercy. No retreat." The crowd repeated as one. No mercy. No retreat. Graktha grinned, his sharp teeth glistening. His claws flexed, eager to crush. "Come then, little one," he growled. "Let me end you." Eli stood still. He placed the bag gently on the ground, at the edge of the circle. His eyes never left the giant. His voice was calm as stone. "First lesson. A fight is not always about fists." The crowd leaned forward. What did he mean? Graktha snarled, charging forward. The ground shook with each step, dust rising in clouds. His arms swung like hammers, his claws cutting the air. But Eli did not meet him with fists. He moved. One step, then another. Smooth. Clean. His body bent and turned with grace. Each strike passed close. Too close, but never touched. Gracther's fury grew with every miss. The crowd gasped and shouted. He dodges again. Impossible. Is this human trained? Gracther roared, slamming both fists down where Eli had stood. The stone cracked deep, but Eli was already behind him, silent as shadow. The human's voice cut the air again. Second lesson. Strength means nothing without control. The crowd shivered. Was he teaching the giant? Was this not a fight, but a lesson? Gracther's pride burned hotter. Rage clouded his mind. He spun, his tail smashing into stalls, his arms lashing out like whips. But Eli's movements stayed light, careful, always out of reach. Step by step, the giant grew slower. His strikes became wild, desperate. Dust covered his skin. His breath grew heavier. The crowd felt it. They saw the truth. The human was not fighting with fists. He was fighting with patience. Gracther stumbled, sweat dripping down his stone-like skin. His yellow eyes glared, filled with rage and confusion. Stand still, he roared. Fight me like a warrior. Eli's reply was sharp. A warrior fights to win. A fool fights to show off. The crowd erupted in whispers. The words cut deeper than claws. Gracther screamed, slamming his fists into the ground so hard the circle shook. Dust blinded the air. Sparks burst from broken wires above. But when the cloud cleared, Eli stood again untouched, his calm eyes steady. And then he reached down. Slowly, deliberately. He picked up the brown bag from the ground. He held it once more, steady and firm. The crowd gasped. He dared protect food against a giant. He dared turn the challenge into something else. Gracther's rage burned like fire. You mock me, he roared. You insult me before all. Eli's voice was calm. No, I show them the truth. You are only loud, only big, nothing more. The silence that followed was sharper than steel. The crowd's eyes widened. The whispers turned into something dangerous. Doubt spread, doubt in Gracther's power. The giant felt it. He saw it in their faces. His pride cracked like stone under pressure. He could not allow this. He would not. With a roar that shook the station walls, he charged again, faster, harder, his claws aiming to tear the human apart. And Eli, small and calm, stood waiting. The challenge was far from over. The market was a circle of silence. The giant's rage filled the air like fire. His heavy steps cracked the ground. His roar shook metal beams, and his claws cut the air like blades. Yet still, the human stood. Eli's small figure seemed like nothing against the 12-foot wall of muscle and stone before him. The challenge should have ended long ago. No one should have been able to stand this long against Gracther. But the crowd now watched with wide eyes and whispering voices. Something was happening that no one had seen before. Eli bent low, placing the brown bag gently on the ground in front of him. Dust swirled around it. The smell of food rose higher into the air. It spread across the market, sharp and warm, pulling at every alien nose. Even those far at the edges of the circle smelled it. It was strange. It was powerful. And it was alive in a way no alien meal had ever been. Gracther's head twitched toward the bag. His nose twitched too. That smell was not normal. It was hot, sharp burning. His throat felt dry just from breathing it. His pride told him to ignore it, but his hunger screamed louder. He growled, stepping forward. So that is what you guard. Not weapons, not riches, only food. His grin spread wide, sharp teeth glowing under broken lights. Then I will taste it, and when I do, all will know how weak you are. Eli's voice cut back, steady and calm. Touch it, and you will learn the truth." The crowd gasped again. They leaned forward, hearts racing. No one had ever spoken to Gracther this way. No one had ever dared. Gracther's pride burned. He bent low, his claws reaching down. His massive hand closed around the bag, dwarfing it in his palm. The crowd shouted in fear. "Don't!" someone cried. "He'll crush it," another yelled. But Eli did not move. His eyes stayed locked on the giant. His face remained calm. Gracther lifted the bag to his face. His wide nostrils flared. The smell slammed into him like a wall. Spices burned his nose. His eyes watered. His throat ached as if fire slid down it. He coughed once, then twice, shaking his head. The crowd froze, confused. What was happening? Gracther snarled and forced the bag open. Inside lay a simple meal, wrapped bread, soft rice, and a stew thick with spices. To the crowd, it looked plain. But the smell hit them too, and they flinched. Their tongues tingled. Their eyes stung. "What is this?" the giant growled. His voice cracked, weaker than before. Eli's answer was calm. "My grandmother's cooking. Stronger than you know." The giant roared, furious at the words. To be mocked, to be weakened, to cough in front of a crowd. It was unbearable. He shoved a clawed hand into the bag and pulled out a piece of bread, soaked with stew. His teeth tore into it. The crowd screamed. "No, he eats it." Gracther chewed once. His throat tightened. His eyes burned red. His body shuddered. The taste exploded like fire and thunder together, burning his mouth and throat with power no alien tongue had ever felt. He gagged. He coughed. He stumbled back, dropping the bag. His massive hand clawed at his throat as smoke seemed to pour from his mouth. His yellow eyes went wide with pain. The crowd could not believe it. The 12-foot bully, choking. From food. Gracther's roars turned to gasps. He spat flames of spice into the dirt. His knees buckled. His pride, his strength, his fearsome image, all of it cracked like glass. Eli bent down and calmly picked the bag back up. His voice was soft but clear. "I warned you." The silence that followed was sharper than any weapon. The crowd leaned in, eyes wide, hearts racing. They could not look away. Gracther roared again, voice ragged, throat raw. "What did you do to me?" Eli's gaze stayed calm. "Nothing. It is only food. Only the taste of earth. You were not ready for it." The crowd whispered, "Earth food. Impossible. It burns him." Gracther staggered to his feet, rage mixing with fear. His pride would not allow defeat. He raised his fists high, roaring, forcing his body forward through the burning pain. "I will still crush you," he screamed. But his steps were slower now. His body shook. His stomach twisted. His power felt less certain, less unstoppable. Eli's voice cut the air again. "Third lesson. Not all battles are fought with fists. Some battles are won with what you carry." The words hit like a strike. The crowd's whispers grew into shouts. They cheered, louder than before, cheering for the human. For the first time, the market no longer feared the giant. Gracther felt a shift. Their eyes were no longer filled with fear. They were filled with something worse. Doubt. "No," he roared, striking the ground. "Do not look at him. Look at me." But they did not. Their eyes stayed on Eli, the small figure holding a simple bag of food. Gracther's pride twisted into panic. He swung his claws again, desperate, wild, aiming to end the human before the crowd fully turned. His arms cut through the air, smashing broken stalls, sending debris flying. But Eli moved with the same calm steps. One to the side, one back, one forward, always out of reach. His eyes stayed sharp, waiting. And then, when the giant leaned too close, Eli lifted the bag. With one smooth motion, he pushed the stew back toward Gracther's face. The smell slammed into the giant stronger than before. His eyes burned, tears streaming. His throat closed tight. His roar broke into a cough. He stumbled back, clawing at his face, blinded by the spices. The crowd erupted. The humans struck him with food. He cannot see. The bully is falling. Gracther crashed into a wall, stone cracking under his weight. His massive body shook the floor. He groaned, coughing, gasping for air. His pride shattered. His power crumbled. Eli stepped closer, calm as ever. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the noise. You thought you could take from me, but some things are not for bullies. The crowd went silent, listening, waiting. Eli's eyes never left the giant. His bag still hung in his hand. His words were the final blade. This is my grandmother's lunch, and you will never have it. The silence broke into thunder. The crowd roared with cheers, their voices rising high, echoing through the market. The sound drowned the giant's coughing. It filled the station with a new story. A story not of a bully, but of a human. And Gracther, the 12-foot terror of the market, lay broken on the ground, not by weapons, not by armies, but by something as small, as simple as a meal from earth. The twist was complete. The roar of the crowd still echoed like thunder. The market that once trembled under Gracther's shadow now cheered for someone else. They cheered for the human. Eli stood calm, his small figure steady, his bag of food still in hand. Around him, the air shimmered with dust, smoke, and the scent of earth spices. His eyes did not leave the giant. Gracther was not beaten yet. He groaned, pushing himself up from the cracked wall. His massive body shook, his throat burned, and his eyes watered from the food's fire. But his pride was stronger than his pain. His pride would not let him stay down. He rose, 12 feet tall again, chest heaving like a storm. The crowd's cheers cut him deeper than any blade. His name, once feared, now sounded hollow. No, he growled, voice rough. No one cheers for you, little insect. No one. He slammed his fists into the ground, shaking the circle, trying to silence them. But the cheers only grew louder. Eli did not move. He simply adjusted his grip on the bag and stepped forward. One step, then another. The sound of his boots on stone was soft, but to the crowd, it was louder than the giant's roar. Stop walking toward me. Gracther bellowed. He swung his arm, claws slicing through the air like a blade. But Eli shifted, smooth and calm. The strike missed. Gracther roared and struck again, his arm like a falling tree. Eli stepped aside, the claw crashing into stone. Dust exploded, but Eli's eyes never blinked. The crowd gasped. The human was not just surviving now. He was controlling the fight. Gracther's rage boiled hotter. His strikes grew wild. He swung with both arms, stomped with both feet, smashed everything around him. Sparks rained from broken lamps. The ground cracked deeper. Stalls burst into splinters. And yet, Eli was always one step ahead. A turn here, a bend there, a step forward when the claw came down, a step back when the tail lashed out. His movements were not frantic. They were measured, clean, almost patient. The crowd began to shout his name. Human, human, human. The chant rolled like a wave, shaking the walls of the station. Gracther froze, staring around him. His own people, no, his own victims, were not afraid anymore. They were cheering for another. He roared in fury, his voice breaking with desperation. I am Gracther. I am fear. I am power. You cannot take this from me. Eli stopped walking. He stood tall, looking up at the giant without blinking. His voice was calm, steady, cutting through the roar. You already lost it. The words sliced deeper than claws. The crowd cheered louder. Gracther's chest heaved. His pride screamed. He charged forward, the ground splitting under his steps. His claws spread wide. ready to crush the human in a final blow. Eli did not move until the last moment. His eyes stayed sharp, focused. His boots shifted, his body leaned, and the giant's claws tore through empty air. In that instant, Eli stepped inside the giant's shadow. He was close now, so close that Gracther could not use his eyes. The human looked up, his calm voice clear. Fourth lesson: size is nothing without balance. With a sudden movement, Eli lifted the brown bag and pushed it into Gracther's face again. The smell burst into the giant's nose, burning like fire. His eyes watered, his throat locked, his roar broke into coughs. The crowd screamed in shock and laughter. The bully, blinded again by food. Gracther staggered back, his massive body swaying. He swung blindly, claws cutting only air. His pride shattered further with every cough. Eli did not chase. He did not mock. He simply stood tall, bag still in hand, watching calmly. The crowd felt it. The shift. The human was no longer surviving. He was leading. Gracther stumbled, crashing into the circle's edge. His yellow eyes burned through tears. His voice cracked. You dare humiliate me?" Eli's reply was soft but sharp. "No, you humiliated yourself." The words echoed like a strike of thunder. The crowd erupted into cheers again. Their fear was gone. Their courage returned. And all of it, every voice, was for the human. Gracther shook his head, desperate. His pride would not die. He forced his body forward, claws slamming into the ground, pulling himself closer. His chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. "I will not fall," he roared. Eli's eyes narrowed. His reply was steady. "Then learn why humans stand." The crowd grew silent again, leaning closer, waiting. Eli stepped forward, his boots steady. He stood directly before the 12-foot alien. The shadow of the giant fell over him, but his body did not bend. His back was straight, his gaze sharp, his voice calm. "Fifth lesson," he said. "Standing tall is not about height. It is about heart." The crowd froze. The words rang deep, carried into every chest, every memory of fear. Eli raised the bag one last time. His movement was sharp, fast, precise. He pushed it straight into the giant's face. The burning smell filled Gracther's lungs, stronger than before. His roar turned to choking. His body shook. His knees buckled. The crowd shouted as the 12-foot bully fell to one knee, then another. His massive fists slammed into the ground, trying to hold himself up. But the weight of his pride, his pain, and the human's defiance pressed him lower. Finally, he collapsed. His chest heaved, his breath ragged, his pride broken. The crowd erupted, their cheers louder than ever. Aliens of every kind shouted and roared. They stomped the ground. They raised their hands. They no longer feared Gracther. They feared someone else now. They respected someone else. They cheered for someone else. The human. Eli stood tall in the center, his bag still in hand. His calm gaze looked over the crowd. He did not smile. He did not boast. He simply stood, steady and unshaken. And in that moment, the story of the market changed. No longer was it the place where Gracther ruled with fear. Now it was the place where a human stood tall, with nothing more than courage, calm, and his grandmother's lunch. And every being in the circle knew this was not the end. This was the beginning. The market trembled with cheers. The sound rolled through the metal walls of Orlon Station, echoing like a storm. For the first time in years, the crowd was not afraid. They shouted for the human, the one who stood small but unshaken. Eli stood tall in the circle, calm and steady. His brown bag was still in his hand, though its edges were torn from the struggle. The smell of Earth's food still hung in the air, strong, sharp, burning. And before him, the giant lay broken. Gracther's knees dug into the cracked stone. His chest rose and fell with ragged breaths. His yellow eyes watered, his throat burned, and his pride shattered like glass. He had never been brought so low. Not by armies, not by mercenaries, not by weapons of fire and steel, but by a single human with a lunch bag. The crowd's cheers cut deeper than any blade. They no longer looked at him with fear. They looked at him with laughter, with relief, with boldness. His name, once enough to silence a room, now sounded like a joke. Gracther's huge hands clenched the ground. His claws dug into stone. His teeth bared in rage. "No," he growled, voice shaking. "No, I am not beaten. I am not broken." The crowd hushed. Eli's eyes narrowed. He said nothing. He only watched. Gracther roared and pushed himself up. His massive body trembled, but his pride forced him higher. First one knee, then both feet. His chest heaved as he stood again. 12 feet of fury. The light above burned across his gray skin, highlighting every scar, every vein, every line of hatred. The crowd gasped. He was standing again. Eli did not flinch. His boots stayed planted. His gaze stayed sharp. Gracther pointed one claw at the human, his hand shaking with rage. "You think this is finished? No. I am Gracther. I am terror. I am the name carved into the bones of cowards. I will not fall to you." He slammed his fists against his chest, the sound echoing like drums. Then he bent low, muscles coiled tight, ready to launch forward like a predator. The circle shook. Dust rained from broken lamps above. The market held its breath. And then he charged. His roar split the air. His claws stretched wide. His steps shattered stone. His body moved with desperate speed. The crowd screamed. Some tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The circle was too tight, too small. The only one who did not move was Eli. He watched. He waited. His grip tightened on the bag. Gracther's shadow swallowed him whole as the giant leapt. His claws came down like falling towers. Eli stepped forward. Just one step. The claw slammed into the ground where he had been, shattering stone, spraying dust. But Eli was already inside the giant's reach. He was close now. Close enough to feel the heat of Gracther's skin. Close enough to hear the desperate rasp of his breath. "Sixth lesson," Eli said softly. "Desperation makes you blind." And then he moved. He slid under the giant's arm, twisting his body with precision. His bag struck once more, pressed against Gracther's face. The burning smell poured into his nose, his mouth, his lungs. His roar broke into a choking scream. The crowd erupted. Some laughed, some cheered, some simply stared in shock. Gracther stumbled, swinging wildly, but Eli was already past him, calm and steady. His movements were not quick from fear. They were controlled, sharp, measured like a dance. The giant spun, coughing, blinded, his claws tearing through empty air. His pride demanded he fight, but his body betrayed him. Eli turned back, his eyes cold. He raised his voice, strong and clear. "Seventh lesson. A bully's power dies when no one fears him." The words hit harder than any strike. The crowd felt it. The truth. Fear was gone. Courage had returned. The giant's power was broken, not by force, but by spirit. Gracther staggered, his chest heaving. He slammed his fists into the ground again, cracking stone, trying to rise higher, trying to show strength. But his body shook. His pride could not lift him. He stared at the human, his voice breaking. "Why do you not run? Why do you not fear me?" Eli stepped closer, his boots steady. His eyes stayed locked on the giant. "Because fear only feeds you, and I don't feed bullies." The crowd erupted into cheers again, louder than ever. The sound shook the market, rising like thunder. Gracther roared, a broken sound, half anger, half despair. He lunged one last time, his body twisting, his claws flashing. Eli moved. His steps were clean, his timing perfect. He ducked under the strike, pressed forward, and lifted the bag high. For the final time, he slammed it into the giant's face. The smell poured deep, burning, unstoppable. Gracther's scream echoed through the market as his massive body collapsed. His knees hit stone. His chest fell. His claws scraped weakly, trying to rise. But his strength was gone. His pride was shattered. His shadow no longer towered. He fell forward, the ground shaking under his weight. His massive frame lay still, breath shallow, eyes closed. The crowd erupted. The cheers became a storm, shaking the air, shaking the station itself. Eli stood tall in the center, calm, steady, his bag still in hand. He looked down at the fallen giant, then up at the crowd. His voice was quiet, but every ear heard it. Humans don't stand tall because of size. We stand tall because we must. The words burned into the hearts of every being present. The memory of fear was gone. The memory of courage took its place. The market was free. But Eli knew. This was not the end. Gracther had fallen, but the galaxy was full of bullies, full of giants who believed power came only from fear. And now the story of a human standing tall with nothing but courage and Grandma's lunch would spread. It would reach ears far beyond Orlon Station. And somewhere out there, more giants would learn the same lessons. Silence. For a long moment, the market was frozen. The dust still hung in the air, broken lamps flickered weakly, and the smell of Earth's food drifted like smoke over the circle. Gracther lay sprawled on the cracked stone, his giant chest rising and falling in weak, shallow breaths. His claws twitched once, then fell still. The great bully of Orlon Station, the name that had ruled by fear for years, was broken, and in the center stood Eli. The human's jacket was torn, dust clung to his hair, and his boots were scuffed from stone. But his back was straight, his hands steady, and his gaze calm. The brown bag still hung from his grip, torn at the edges, but not destroyed. The crowd's eyes were fixed on him. Every alien, from the smallest insectoid to the towering reptilian traders, waited in silence. They were holding their breath. And then, slowly, the sound began. One clap, another, a cheer rising, spreading. Soon the market roared louder than ever before. Shouts of joy, cries of laughter, voices raised together in a storm of celebration. The sound rolled through the walls, carrying across the station. Human, human, human. The chant shook the air, echoing across steel corridors, carried by mouths that had once whispered in fear. Eli did not raise his arms. He did not bow. He simply stood still, letting the storm pass through him. His eyes drifted once more to the fallen giant, then back to the crowd. At last he spoke. His voice was calm, yet every ear heard. Fear ruled this place for too long. Today, you learned it doesn't have to. The words spread like fire. They leapt from mouth to mouth, carried through whispers, then shouts, then stories already beginning to form. Eli turned, stepping out of the circle. The crowd parted before him, giving him space, not from fear, but respect. Eyes followed him, wide and bright, filled with something they had not felt in years, hope. He walked slowly, boots steady on broken stone. The bag swung gently from his hand. At the edge of the market, a small alien stepped forward, a trader with soft fur and trembling hands. Human, it whispered, voice shaking. Thank you. Another stepped forward, a winged creature, bowing low. You freed us. Voices rose around him. Gratitude, respect, awe. Eli only nodded. You freed yourselves when you stopped fearing. He kept walking. Behind him, the market swelled with noise again. Traders spoke excitedly. Children laughed, no longer hiding behind their parents. Merchants picked up fallen goods with smiles, not dread. The shadow was gone. But the story was only beginning. Far above, the story spread through the station's networks. Security feeds had captured the fight. Holoscreens replayed it. Images of the tiny humans standing before the 12-foot giant spread across comm channels in seconds. In cantinas, workers crowded around glowing screens, jaws open. In hangars, pilots paused mid-repair, watching the replay. In the quiet halls of the station's council, leaders frowned, whispering to one another. The question was already growing. What happens when a human can break a giant? Gracther was dragged away by those once loyal to him, but their loyalty was gone. They carried him not as a leader, but as a defeated beast. His roar had lost its power. His name had lost its edge. And everywhere, the chant remained. Human. Later, Eli sat alone on a quiet platform near the edge of the station. The stars stretched endless beyond the glass, a sea of light and shadow. His bag sat beside him, lighter now. Only a few bites of food remained. He took one, chewing slowly, the spice still strong on his tongue. Behind him, footsteps approached. A voice spoke low, careful. "You changed everything today." Eli did not turn. "Did I?" A tall alien, one of the market's merchants, stepped forward. Its scales glimmered under the faint light. "You broke the chain. Fear has ruled us for years. Now we know it can be broken." Eli looked out at the stars. His voice was quiet. "It was never about me. It was about all of you remembering fear doesn't own you." The merchant bowed its head. "Still, they will tell your story. Across the station, across the systems. They will remember the day a human stood tall." Eli's lips curved faintly, not quite a smile. "Stories grow on their own. Let them grow." The merchant hesitated, then asked softly, "Why risk yourself? You could have walked away. No one expected you to stand." Eli finally turned, his eyes steady. "Because someone had to." The words were simple, but they carried weight. The merchant bowed deeper, then stepped back, leaving him alone with the stars. By morning, the story had already spread beyond Orlon Station. Freighters carried it to nearby systems. Couriers whispered it in dark corners. Pirates mocked it at first, then grew uneasy. Soldiers heard it in their barracks, then wondered if it was true. The 12-foot bully fell to a human with nothing but lunch. The words twisted, changed, grew with each telling. Some said the human used fire in his bag. Some said he struck the giant with lightning. Some claimed his eyes glowed like stars. But at the heart of every story, one truth remained. A human stood tall when no one else would. And in a quiet chamber far across the galaxy, leaders of other powerful races gathered. They spoke in hushed tones, uneasy. "Humans, they are small." "Yes, but small things spread fast." "They are dangerous, not because of weapons, but because of courage." The memory of Eli standing calm before a giant spread in their minds. It unsettled them. It made them wary. And it made them afraid. Back on Orlon Station, the market was alive again. Laughter replaced silence. Music returned. Children played in open spaces without fear. Merchants traded openly, their voices clear. And above it all, stories painted walls and screens. A small human standing before a fallen giant. Some drew him as tall as the alien, though he never was. Some gave him glowing eyes, though his were plain. But all showed the bag at his hand. All remembered the lunch. The smell lingered in memory, sharp and burning. A symbol now, not of food, but of defiance. Eli walked the market once more. Beings greeted him with nods, bows, and words of thanks. Children peeked from behind stalls, eyes wide. But he never stopped long. He never asked for rewards. He only walked, calm and steady, boots firm on stone. At the edge, a small alien child tugged his sleeve. "Human, will you stay? We are safe when you are here." Eli knelt, meeting the child's eyes. His voice was gentle. "You are safe because you are brave. Don't forget that." He stood again and walked on. The child watched him leave, eyes shining. Behind the child, the chant rose again, softer this time but strong. "Human, human, human." And so the legend grew. The story of Orlon Station would echo for years. A bully 12 feet tall had fallen. Not to an army, not to weapons, but to one human who refused to bend. Eli never asked to be a hero, but in the galaxy's eyes, he had become one. Because in the end, humans did not stand tall by size. They stood tall by heart. And now the galaxy would never forget it.